Hello, I'm Dr. Susan Heitler. Prescriptions without pills. A friend of mine recently went to have a checkup with her gynecologist. The gynecologist was a very genial fellow. He checked her out and she looked fine. He asked, "How have you been feeling emotionally lately?" She said, "Oh, today I'm just really down." He asked a few more questions and then said, "Here's a prescription for antidepressants." Ginny walked out of that office feeling quite distressed. Pills, antidepressant pills, are not candy, they're not fruit, they're actually often not at all good for you. They can cause weight gain, they can cause lowering of your libido, they can precipitate a depression as you get off of them. They're not a simple way to deal with no side effects or negative outcomes with negative feelings. What were her other choices? This talk takes a fresh look at feeling bad to give you prescriptions for alternatives to medications, because bad feelings are not a chemical disorder for the most part. Most of the time, they're reactions to problems in living. I'll give you an example. Ginny, the day before, had had a very unpleasant interaction with her boss. He, like the gynecologist, is generally a very genial, positive fellow, but he had spoken to her in a harsh voice she'd never heard before. He also came across as so critical. So what were Ginny's options? Well, let's use the hand map to understand. I'm putting my hand out here. This is our handout for today. As Ginny was walking down the road of life, she hit a bump. A bump is a problem, a dilemma, something unpleasant, an issue, whatever you label it, a conflict. It's a problem that needs solving. So when you see a problem that needs solving, you have 5 potential roads to go down. The first is to take the road of problem solving. If you're good at problem solving, at shared decision making, at conflict resolution, then you find a good solution and continue up the road to well-being. If, however, you don't have those skills, there's 4 alternative options. Number 1, you can get mad. Number 2, you can give up and feel depressed. Number 3, you can freeze like a deer in headlights. Or number 4, stop off at the neighborhood bar and get drunk. Now, those 4 options are not necessarily all bad. There are times when they work very well. Let's take an animal. Let's say a ape in the jungle. The ape has just found something for dinner, and along comes another ape about to take it away. He attacks the new ape and gets to keep his dinner. Anger worked very well. Second option, it turns out the second ape that was coming along is much bigger than ape number 1. So ape decides to give up. Now he feels a little depressed about having lost his meal. At the same time, he has no injuries. And apes are wise. They know that there are no ape hospitals in the jungle. Injuries are very dangerous for animals. So it was a good thing that his serotonin did a sudden drop so that he felt depressed, unmotivated to protect himself, and just slinked away. Third option might be that the ape would freeze when the predator came along, like a deer in headlights, as the saying goes. What's helpful about freezing? When there's no motion, there's less chance that the ape will be detected. Yes, he loses his lunch, but he doesn't lose his physical health. Fourth option, escape. If an ape is a good runner, he may just take off and again save himself. Find another dinner elsewhere. Now, people, unlike animals, do have this wonderful 5th option, the option of addressing the problem directly, figuring out what they need to do to solve the problem, solving it, and move on. So let's look at what prescriptions could help you to solve problems instead of going down these 4 routes. Now, the 4 routes may happen initially because people don't automatically necessarily go into problem-solving mode when a problem comes up. I'll give you an example. Back to Ginny. Ginny was stunned when her boss spoke really harshly to her. Her first impulse was to get mad. She quickly squashed that because she needs that job and instead felt herself giving up. At the same time, she froze. There was an anxiety component as well as a depressive component. She froze because she wanted to be certain that none of her anger showed. Now, the 4th option was when she got home, what did Ginny do? Open the refrigerator door and start compulsively eating. Addictions, obsessive and compulsive habits, those are all escape routes so that she was no longer aware of her anger, her depression, her anxiety. Of course, addictions create a new problem. Okay, Ginny, what can you do? What are the prescriptions that Ginny could do as she became aware that she was angry? Prescription number 1 for anger: stop, look, and listen. Sound like a stop sign? Stop, because it's not helpful when you feel angry to pick up the stop sign and clobber people with it. It's more helpful to stop so that your anger can calm down. Then you can look over the situation to assess what the problem is about. Thirdly, you can listen to what the other person's concerns are, to what your own concerns are, and now here you are on the road to well-being. What if her dominant feeling was depression? Now, depression is tricky because you can't always remember what knocked me over when you're depressed. So Ginny's prescription for depression would be, number 1, close her eyes and ask herself, if I was going to be angry, who would that be at? Right away, she'd see her boss's scowling face. Second part of the prescription would be to pump herself up. When we feel bigger, even if we're just visualizing ourselves as bigger, we become empowered. And from a bigger stance, it becomes possible to see data that Ginny didn't see when she was feeling small and depressed. From this bigger position, with the additional data, she can begin to problem solve. So, pinpoint, pump up, and then problem solve for depression. How about for anxiety? Anxiety causes your brain to freeze. Unfreeze the brain by looking for information. Turns out the best antidote for anxiety usually begins with information. 4th prescription, realize that the escape is about an issue that needs solving. Now, in the actual talk, I can give additional prescriptions for overcoming addiction. The key, though, is to go back to the problem and use thinking, information gathering, talking with other people in a cooperative way. Because remember, your negative emotions are your friends. As those negative emotions have given you more understanding of the problem, you'll have better fortune at actually solving the problem. Prescriptions without pills to stay in the zone of well-being.